Hello and welcome back to the Let's Glow Show. It's Amanda Sweet, the Creative Fairy Godmother, and we are back at it again with another creative entrepreneur in the hot seat. I have the beautiful, effervescent, multi-hyphenated entrepreneur, Sydnie Bland, here with us today.
Hey, y'all. Hey, girls.
I'm so excited for you to be here. When we met, that smile, the glow, you walked in,
Yes.
hey, what's up? And I was like, she's special. This one is special.
Listen, energy, light knows light. We just vibe.
It was a vibe. So we've been wanting to get together and talk for a minute. And I'm like,
yes,
we might as well do it on camera and let people see
absolutely.
the story that is you. So
Yes.
tell everybody about all the amazing hats that you wear, because you just mentioned a few that I didn't know off camera, and so now I'm like super excited.
Yes. Yeah. So I do so many things. A lot of times, to be honest with you, last year I literally had to sit down and realign and reprioritize. I'm like, damn it, what do I do? I do so many things. So I will say I am a creative naturally. So I sing, I'm classically trained. I sing every genre you can think of, gospel, R&B, pop, you name it, I do it, classical. I hail from a musical family. So music is in my blood. I've done different music competitions and just sing all over Detroit. So you can see me. Yeah, so you can see me all the time. But in terms of my training, I am an educator by trade. So I spent 12 years in K-12 public education. And actually in September of 22, I left K-12 public education to finally launch and fully operationalize my business, Woman L3C. So in that, I am a limited licensed counselor in the state of Michigan. I am a coach. I am a workshop facilitator. I'm a consultant. Amanda, I do so many things. I direct, I produce when it comes to music, when it comes to promotional videos. I used to work for Detroit Public Schools Community District. And in that role, I produced over 64 promotional videos for the school. So, and one of my contracts right now is coming back to my old job and doing an additional 25, 30, because it is a district of 107 schools. And so it's just really cool that I get to come back and do the things that I love. So like I said, I do so many things, and I'm just grateful for being in a space in my life now that I can do what I love.
Oh my gosh, do so many things.
Yes.
Okay, so I hear the echo again. I'm wondering, maybe turn your volume down like 2 steps. 1, 2. Maybe that'll help. Because I hear me and you. Okay. Is that better? Yeah. Amazing. All right. You're a powerhouse. I mean, I knew this, but I didn't know this. Like, I didn't know what you sang. And then I just found out right before we hit record that you're a producer. Like, how did you become this woman? Where did this come from? Where did all of this come from?
You know, I hail from a family of just geniuses. And it's more than just like the intellectual piece, it's the creative piece. So everyone in my family has at least one musical talent. So like I have a total of 5 siblings. One's deceased, and then I have an older sibling, sister, and then 2 brothers. But 3 of us are classically trained in piano. My dad plays piano and organ. He's an educator. He's a pastor. He's a lecturer. He's a civil rights leader. I mean, he does so many things. So when you're surrounded by someone who has all of these talents, it's inherent that you just take on some of those things. And so my brothers, they're just musically talented. They play the bass, they play the key bass, they play the piano. I mean, both of them played for the NFL draft here in Detroit. And so one was actually, his band was playing on the main stage. So like literally you see the Blands everywhere. I'm just the one that kind of likes to stay in the back.
Okay.
So like we really dibble and dabble and do a lot of stuff. So my brothers, they're producers when it comes to music. So It's in our blood. I really can't explain it. You know, we've just been blessed to have so many talents, and God has given us the ability to be able to benefit from those talents. My mom's a teacher, a retired teacher, and she's a music teacher. She's been teaching children for years. And so, you know, it's just hard to not to do all these things when it's like when you're surrounded by creativity and you're surrounded by giants. So,
and why do you have to? Why do you have to pick only one thing? You know, it's crazy to think that you would even have to do that.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? So growing up, I was the only girl in the household. My sister and I, we have different mothers. So she wasn't raised, we weren't raised in the same household. And like I mentioned, my baby sister, she died at 9 months. So I was literally like the only girl. And because I was in that environment, my parents really pushed us, specifically me, to let me know, like, you have no barriers. Just because you're a girl doesn't mean that you can't do the same things that your brothers do or the same thing that your other male peers do. So I was given that room and freedom to really stretch myself out, as opposed to when I got into the world, right? There were all these societal norms and restrictions that were saying, oh, well, you can't do this and you can't do that. I'm like, who said? Because my daddy said, my mama said, you know, so.
I love that. Okay, you said a couple things that make me curious because I grew up in a big family too. And, you know, I have my experience with, you know, talented siblings and like inspiring family members. So what was that like growing up in a family? You said a family of giants. Like, did you feel like you had to like meet their expectations? Did you feel like, tell me a little bit about that experience because you know, everybody might have a different one. It sounds like you had a beautiful experience, but let's talk about it.
Yeah, I was definitely blessed to have beautiful experiences. I wouldn't trade my parents for the world. But there were so many challenges, right? You got to take the bumps with the beauty, right? And I think maybe because I was the youngest, I was just a rebel. Like, I think I naturally came into this world and I'm just like, listen, I am Sydnie, the Renee Bland, and I'm here. And so my parents cultivating a space where I could be myself. Of course, I had my challenges because I was naturally curious. And so I asked questions and things of that sort. My parents are old school. So, you know, you gotta watch what you do. Gotta watch how you say things. I'm like, I just literally wanted to know. Like,
no. What did you ask questions about that made you rebellious and curious?
Just certain things didn't make sense to me. When it came to certain expectations that honestly we had to do, and I didn't see other folk doing it. I'm like, but why do we have to do it? I mean, I don't see anyone else doing it. So can you help me understand? Like, I'm not going to lie to you. Still to this day, nail me to the cross if you want to. I still don't understand the premise behind making a bed. It's not that I don't make a bed. However,
why?
Like, who said that every single day? Who came up with this? Every single day, I have to make a bed. For what? If I'm going to mess it up again. Like, these are the things that I asked at a very young age. So my parents were like, listen, I don't know what we're going to do with this child. And I've been still adamant. Everybody gives me their reasonings like, oh, it just makes you sleep better. I'm like, I sleep well, whether it's made, whether it's messy. Like, again, visually, aesthetically, it makes sense because I like a clean, organized room, but sometimes after a while, it becomes too cumbersome. So I'm like one of those people where I'll make the bed, and instead of having to make the bed, again, call me lazy if you want to, I'll take a comforter and I'll hop on the bed with the comforter. So when I get up, guess what? All I have to do is smooth the bed, plop the pillows. It's made. Here we go. But the whole thing about getting the three, no, it's just too much.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
But, you know, like to each his own, you know, I feel like that's one of those things where it's like, you can't tell people how to do that. That's a personal thing. That's like, that's whether you like fold your towels or not. It's like, how are you going to spend your time during the day? That's up to you,
Yeah.
It's so funny. I love that. Okay, so we were chit-chatting a little bit, and for those of you watching, at the time of recording, it is the week after Mother's Day. And Sydnie asked me how I was doing, and I am fully transparent. Like, I had a really hard Mother's Day. And some of you know, if you've been watching the show, that I recently had a miscarriage this past year, and you shared some stories with me too. And I'm just kind of curious, like, how was your Mother's Day? Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you. Thank you. This Mother's Day was good. I had the opportunity to spend time with my mother as well as my adopted mother. All of my biological grandmothers, unfortunately, they've passed away. But God has graced me to have an adoptive mother here in Detroit who's still living. She's suffering from dementia, but it was beautiful. We got to take them to brunch at the Detroit Golf Club. It was wonderful. I got to drive my grandmother back to her home, and it was great. But, I've been there. I've been there where I've had Mother's Days that weren't so great. Like I shared with you, when I was about 29, I believe I was 29 turning 30, I was in a relationship where we had decided to part ways. And during that time, I was unemployed. So I was educated. I had these degrees, but you do adult things and things happen. And I wound up being pregnant while I was unemployed. And so because the relationship was ending, for me, the best option was to abort the pregnancy. And I didn't realize the impact that would have on me, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, after the fact. Because when you have life in you, I think what people don't understand is when it's taken out, your body, like there's a immediate connection. It's a connection that you really can't explain.
Right.
And so when that is gone, there is this emptiness and there's this void. There is this heaviness and this darkness. And for me, that's actually how I was introduced to counseling. Because after I had my DNC, my partner at the time, he was literally like, I don't know what's going on, but I've been trying to be here for you, but you can't bring me down with you. And I thought it was insensitive in the moment. And it was to a certain extent, but I guess I didn't realize how deep, dark, depressed I was, because it was literally a chore just to get out the bed and wash my ass.
Right.
Like, and I mean, I know that's very explicit, but like, that's how it was.
Yeah.
That was my experience, And so going to counseling, and that really helped me. But when Mother's Day came around, when I would see mothers with their children, I would weep. There was a sadness, and that lasted for some years. And then last year, like I mentioned, I had a slow miscarriage. And so I had to have an emergency DNC. And, yet again, that was in March. Mother's Day rolled around, and then, now I have these tools in my belt, right, that help me with coping, but that still doesn't take away the fact that I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling.
100%. I'm curious about those tools, and I'm curious how you were, like, how did you go from going to counseling? Well, how did you get to counseling? How did you get yourself up? Because it sounds like you were in a pretty deep, dark place, and you have a similar experience. Like, mine is a little bit different. I don't know how different it is, but I did also have an abortion when I was 20. I was like either 20, 21. Early on, I had I'd finally broken up with my abuser at the time, and we had been dating for 4 years. And before that, I was dating another abuser for 4 years. So it was like this, felt like this like 8-year. And even before that, like, even though I was like in early high school, middle school, like I was dating guys that were like sleeping with my friends. So like, it felt like this like 10-year stint of like trauma with men. And even though I was young, it was all real. I mean, like, even though it was like young love, like we were really fighting and we were really hurting each other. And I'd finally broken up with him. and I had gotten home. I quit my job. I dropped out of school, and I was at my parents' house. And I remember like laying on my bed on my stomach, like getting home and laying on my stomach. And it was like a moment of like, I can't avoid this anymore. Like I've been hiding from myself for however long, trying to avoid this being the situation, but it was the situation. And I found out that I was pregnant, and I like, I couldn't go back. Like I couldn't go back into the situation that I was in. The option was never to go back. Like I couldn't do that. I knew that
you didn't want that attachment either.
If I had the baby, like I think about this all the time. If I had that baby right now, I would still be connected to my abuser. And like, I only can imagine how much worse it would have gotten in that scenario. Even though like when I did finally tell him after the abortion was completed that I was pregnant, you know, he groveled and how much he would change and all of this stuff. And I'm like, no, that was not ever the situation that we were going to be in. But here now, getting pregnant with the person that I love in a healthy relationship with my husband, you know, I've had these like bubble up moments where I'm like, is this karmic? Like, is this because I did, you know, like having those moments in the hospital when they're like, there's no, the baby's not living, you know,
it's not viable. Yeah.
And the whole time I'm like, this is my fault. This is because of me. This is a karmic thing. And trying to work myself out of that mentality. But all of those things like counseling and therapy, like it took me a long time too. And I turned to acting as my form of therapy.
Yeah.
It really was for me. Like I was able to like become a person that I see for myself, you know, I brought myself here. But I'm curious how you did it. Like, how did you get from like, I'm not even able to shower and get up and get out of bed to like seeing a counselor?
Yeah. So, my faith is my foundation, and I'm grateful for it. Because a lot of times I think to myself, what would life be like? And it's no shade to anyone, but I just can't imagine what life would be like if I didn't believe in something. With all the things that I've gone through, especially with losing a child and, you know, also choosing to abort a child and what came with that. I mean, that emptiness is, you can't explain it. And I had it, and I was a woman of faith, right? And I still felt this distance. And so honestly, it really took a lot of me just crying out to you know, my creator and saying, I can't do this. Like I am too weak. I don't have it in me. Like I believe that you have the power to get me out of the situation, but I don't think that I'm going to make it to see it. So I need you to help me get out of this space so I can get up, because I don't have it. Because for me, what I was feeling, I was literally at a point where it was just a space where I just didn't want to feel whatever that meant.
Yeah.
I just no longer wanted to feel what I'd been feeling. And so it just literally took a lot of prayer, crying out to my creator. Of course, my partner at the time, he was like, and honestly, he still to this day does not go to counseling, right? Of course, we're no longer together, but he was just like, I think you need to talk to somebody. Like seriously, like you need to talk to somebody. And so having him be able to say that, I'm like, okay, you're right. And so I actually went back to the clinic where I found out in Southfield. I can't remember the name, but it's off of Southfield Road. That was where I actually went to, and I found out that I was pregnant. They did the ultrasound, because again, y'all, I didn't have no money. Like she was broke. Like she was on unemployment. So yeah, so even finding ways to scrape up the money just to get the procedure was just like, I'm telling you, you know, my partner was the one that had to carry that. And so yeah, I went, and it was free counseling. It was a sweet Caucasian woman. She had to have been like 80 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Like, but she was so sweet. She gave me the loving tenderness that I needed. She really helped me acknowledge the fact that I had a baby in my body. And for the reasonings that I had, it was my means of protecting that child. And for some people, they're like, protection, that doesn't make sense. But what I was going through from, I came from a 2-parent household. My partner, he came from a single parent household. His mother raised him. His father did not own him until he became older. And so what I didn't want to do was be in a space where we were bringing kids into the world and not being able to provide them with the best quality of life. Like, I didn't have money, I didn't have a job. So me trying to bring a child in the world, I'm pregnant, I start a job, and then I have to take off work. The father and I are not together. I mean, and I'm an educator. And so being in education for so long, you seeing these storylines and seeing, and me having to be a surrogate mother, a surrogate auntie to a lot of kids because of the life decisions that adults we make. And I didn't want to be another person to contribute to a child who grows up. We're all going to be traumatized, but I just didn't want to create that narrative because I saw it every day. Right. And so for me, a means to protect the child, because again, we made horrible life decisions and our lives were not together. It wasn't fair. It wouldn't have been fair. And then I didn't want to be in a space where I resent, because there's resentment that comes in that when you make certain life decisions. And I've seen it all the time where parents decide to raise their children, but they resent the child because the relationship didn't work out. The child was a result of abuse. And so the child of the abuser is treated differently than the child of the individual that you actually love and you had a healthy attachment, secure attachment, and relationship with. Like, I've seen it all. Yeah. And I didn't want to be that person because I knew there was a possibility that I could very well be that person just because of the trauma. And so that's why for me at that time, the abortion was the best option. But I knew that I needed to talk to somebody, and my counselor, she just really validated me and helped me and encouraged me and let me know, like, it's okay. Like, you did what you felt like you needed to do in that time, and your baby still loves you. I got to name my baby. Right. I got to, do a blessing over my baby. We did this whole ritual, and that's what gave me healing. And so for some people, they're like, oh, that sounds crazy, but for me,
it's what you needed.
It's what I needed. I needed to be able to acknowledge the fact that I did have a child. And just like a mother, I did whatever I felt like I needed to do to protect. Yep. And it didn't matter if anybody agreed with me.
It's none of their business. They're not gonna care for that baby. They're not gonna step in. They're not gonna pay for the bills. They're not gonna, so I love that you did that. So how did you get from going to a counselor to like working in counseling? You said that was your first exposure. Like, how did you get, now you're taking clients, now you're like coaching people, counseling people. Like, tell me about that evolution.
Yeah. So I was in between jobs. So I stayed in education. And full transparency, y'all, I'm gonna be honest with you. Working in education and just being a beautiful, bold woman who, does not allow the societal structures to, keep me from doing the things that I believe in and what I want to do. There are challenges with that. A lot of times pushback is seen as a negative thing, especially when it comes to women. Men can, say, hey, I'm thinking this, or no, such and such. And there's like, oh yeah, but for me as a woman, I am an advocate for whoever I am serving, but sometimes people don't like that. And so there were times where, unfortunately, there couldn't be a meeting of the minds. And because I was doing my job, some people didn't like the fact that I was doing good and that I was light. And so, they schemed, they manipulated. So there were times where I was without a job because I got let go. And it wasn't like a situation where they're like, oh, we're letting you go because of X, Y, and Z. It's like, yeah, so we're going to go in another direction. We're eliminating the position and blah, 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 blah. So, I've been laid off. A lot of my jobs have been, were grant funded. So so of course I got laid off, and then some were pilot positions. So I was an at-will employee. So, I've been let go a total of like 3 to 4 times, one layoff, and then one just because elimination of the position. One was actually like, you're fired and this is why, but it was some BS, but okay. But, but it was what it was. And I lift that up to say, I just got tired of doing the work, being one of the hard, if not the hardest worker in every space that I was always being brought to the table, but no one gave me a damn seat at the table.
Right.
And then it seemed like almost every year I was having to make sure that I had employment for the next year, because a lot of my jobs didn't have security because it was either grant funded or pilot position. So I'm like, I tried the Masters of Education. I'm like, yeah, this isn't it. Like, I was working towards my teaching certification because I used to teach, but I wasn't certified. So I was actually going to school while I was in education. And I'm like, yeah, this isn't it. And I prayed about it. And one day I came across a counseling program. And I remember in high school, one of my high school teachers, he was my sociology teacher and economics teacher. He said, I think that you would be a great counselor. And when I looked at the counseling program, his words were ringing in my ear, and just what it was offering, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is me.
Yeah.
And I knew the benefits of counseling because in every role that I've had, I've always had a forward-facing role in education. I've been a teacher. I've been a parent and community liaison. I've been a district parent liaison and community relations manager. I've been an outreach specialist for enrollment admissions division. I mean, I have literally counseled and helped so many people. And so, but I always felt like I had limitations and I wanted to do more, but I didn't have the tools. And so I'm like, counseling, it makes sense. Now, when I help people and they come to me and say, hey, I'm having these issues, my child is having these academic, socio-emotional issues, but it's hard for me to be able to show up fully because this is what I'm dealing with. Now I can have the tools to be able to support them and then help triage and help them get the resources that they need. So I was the person that connected them to the resources, but I felt like there was something that needed to happen in between, and I didn't have the skill set to do that. So counseling provided that for me in my low moments. So I was like, you know what? I think this is it.
I love that. That is so beautiful. I'm wondering how you manage this like abundantly creative side of you and this like counseling. While it does seem like a creative, intuitive position, it also seems very like logical and like orderly. So how do you manage those two sides of your brain? Because obviously you got the artist in you, and then now you're in this position where you have to be like within the rules, within the boundaries. You have to probably do things in a certain way because law, all that stuff, So how do you like accommodate both sides of you?
Yeah. So, like I told you all, I am my own individual, right? And so, there is an ethical part of counseling that you abide by. But then certain things are just kind of, honestly, when it comes to any field, it's just certain things people do because people have been doing it for a long time. Nobody really has a reason why they do it. It's just like, this is just what we've been doing, since the beginning of time. This is a tale as old as time. And so for me, the beauty about my school, I went to Ashland University. They have a theological seminary. And so I was able to receive my degree in counseling. But the beauty about that program was they helped me be able to include spiritual elements in counseling. So I was able to meet the holistic needs the spiritual, the mental, the emotional, the social thing, all of that. I was able to do that, which makes me very unique from a lot of other counselors that I do know. And I think that me being who I am, even in education, there's this, when you're an empath, you connect with people. And the unfortunate thing is when you leave, you carry whatever has gravitated to you, you carry it home. So one of the things that they talk about in education and counseling is learning to have boundaries within that client relationship, therapist relationship, and that therapeutic relationship, but also in that educator student, educator parent relationship. The caveat with that is if you can't operate in authenticity, then how can you really build a rapport with that person? How can they really trust you? How can you really make transformative impact in their lives if you have these boundaries? Right. And so what makes me different is, just like I'm talking to you, I am literally the same wherever I go. So when it comes to my clients, there is a huge level of transparency that I give with them. Now, granted, there are certain things that I don't share because, again, it's about them. It's not about me. But if a question is asked, some therapists will say, well, let's talk about you. And there are times where I will punt it back just because, let's not deviate from the issue. But then there are times where the transparency is what helps people feel as if they're not alone in the process, for them to see you as a human. And so for me in counseling, that rigidness, that's never worked for me. Like when I started counseling, I was counseling children. And so little ones from age 6 all the way to 16. And in the 21st century, that rigidness does not work. We have a different breed of kids who are expressive and they are very creative and inclusive and curious. And so that whole rigidness, it doesn't work. And, it doesn't work for adults either.
No. And so I'm wondering some quick and dirty tools for us empaths, because, I'm not a counselor, but I kind of find myself in positions like that, like, especially through the work that I do. Like, people come and sit with me and we'll talk about everything. And the reason why I feel that the culture at Bamboo is so strong outside of the structure that it's in is that I'm having these kind of transparent, open conversations with so many people. And just like you, I'm an open book. I'll anybody that wants to sit and talk with me and want to ask me a question and wants to know about XYZ, we literally do it once a week by choice. You know what I mean? But I do feel like as an empath, sometimes I do carry some of that stuff home. I'm a lot better at it than I was before. But for those of us that are struggling with that boundary setting, but also remaining authentic, because that's really important to me. I do want to share. I do want to hear. I do want to be a safe space for people. I do want them to come to me and be able to say, I feel comfortable sharing this with you, and me allowing that, because that is what I want out of life is these deep, beautiful conversations. But I don't want to walk away with it. And so I find myself in those situations, specifically with people that I really care for. I feel like that happens the most, when it's a family member or a close friend. We're sharing the space and they're sharing with me. And then, then I'm carrying their sadness or their stress or whatever that is. So what are some tools that you have for us that are listening, for people that already have good boundaries and want better boundaries, and for people that just don't got boundaries at all?
The first part is to acknowledge that there's an issue, right? You have to be acknowledged. You have to acknowledge the fact, hey, this is a struggle area for me.
Yeah.
Right. Be aware of it. But then you have to be in a space where you're open and willing to make the change. And you have to be in a space, honestly, where you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And when you're in that space, that usually gives you more motivation to start and continue. But once you get to that space where you acknowledge that you have an issue, that you actually have motivation and you want to make a change, you actually have to engage in certain things. So therapy, it is one, because you have to do the internal work. You have to figure out what your blind spots are, right? You have to figure out what unresolved trauma, what unresolved pain you're dealing with. You know, what are your triggers? And you'll find out a lot of times what you're dealing with goes all the way back to your formative years. I mean, I have a counseling degree, and I recently got back in counseling. So I've been in counseling now for probably the last like 2.5 months because it's needed. Because again, you know, even with the tools, you still need somebody to be able to coach you and counsel you. Because you may have the theoretical knowledge, but let's be honest, when you're an expert, sometimes the experts are the worst people. And a lot of times as an empath, we help everybody else, right? And we help everyone thrive. But then in our own personal lives, it's just like we're looking like E.T. on his deathbed, like we're struggling. But you have to do the work. Like even outside of therapy, you actually have to do the work and apply. So I figured that you would ask me for some resources. So
go.
Nedra Glover Tawwab, I love her. She has created the Boundary Bible. So I don't know if you can see this, but there's a book that she's written. It's called Set Boundaries, Find Peace. It's a guide to reclaiming yourself. So you have to understand what boundaries are.
Yeah.
You have to understand and be able to identify which boundary you struggle with. You have rigid boundaries, meaning everything is like, oh, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. But for me, is it porous, weak? So, you know, people pleasing, you know, saying yes, but then you wind up having resentment afterwards, or you're exhausted, or you're burned out. So being able to identify where you are, and then she really breaks down what that looks like in different aspects of your life. So I say educate yourself. She has one, a guide to reclaiming yourself, but she also has one, because this was my biggest thing. It's a guide to managing unhealthy family relationships, drama-free. So this is boundaries specifically for family dynamics. So there are resources out here.
What's her name again?
Nedra Glover Tawwab. Can you see the spelling? Like I love her. She is a social media influencer, professional licensed counselor. I mean, follow her on IG, follow her on Facebook, TikTok. I mean, she is the sugar honey iced tea. Like anything you need to know about boundaries, she constantly gives out content. And so once you have a clear understanding of what boundaries are, you have to apply them.
Right. But if you don't have them, then you don't understand what's, you know, I think that's a big thing for me. Like I keep saying like, I want to have better boundaries, but like, I am kind of like piecing it together. You know, I'm like, okay, I think I need to do this. I think I need to say more to this. And I'm getting better at like, not like rushing to the yes. Cause there was a point in my life where saying yes was working for me in my favor. Like, you know, once I got through those abusive relationships and I was on the other end and I was dating myself and I was healing myself, I was like, let me just say yes to every opportunity and see what happens next. In that space, it worked for me because then I started volunteering for festivals and like industry and entertainment industry. And I found myself like being a club model for like one summer and like not liking that and like doing all of these random things because I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know anything about myself. For the last 10 years, I had been like pleasing men that hated me, you know, didn't have good intentions.
They didn't know how to love.
They didn't know how. They were children. They didn't know how, and we weren't compatible.
They didn't know how to love you the way you needed to be loved.
Exactly. And
your definitions were so different. Yeah.
And I didn't know how to love myself. So I was seeking out people that would enact and portray the way that I felt about myself. And
Yeah.
that for me was a big realization too. I'm like, I am inviting these kinds of relationships into my life, and I'm keeping them there, and I'm bringing them closer and closer and putting them in the space because it's more comfortable than me just hanging out with myself.
Yeah.
And that was the reality for me at the time. So when I was in that dating myself period, which I think will never end, but in that particular point of time where I was like freshly single, it was like, yes. If I say yes, then magical things will happen. Now I'm in a place where I'm like, I'm getting all kinds of stuff coming my way, and everything is no longer serving me. So yes, I am saying no to things, and I'm working on like saying no without feeling any guilt or feeling bad about it or carrying any kind of like anything beyond the no, like no, thank you. And then
that's going to be a lifelong struggle because you're empath.
Yeah.
You just have to kind of learn to live with it and just cope with it and move on.
Like, I have some solutions, like, no, but here's another resource, or here's another person that might be a great fit, or, you know, and understanding that like I might not
and
be
that's a great boundary,
but I can guide you to somebody else who is looking for something like this, you know? So like I just got a new board position with Arts and Scraps. So I'm on the Arts and Scraps board now. I lost I'm really excited. I'm no longer on another board. So I was like, okay, we're trading one board position for another. That's beautiful.
Good for you.
But I got another invitation to be on the YMCA board. And I was like immediate, like my shoulders went up. I got a little
down.
You know?
Listen, I think what people fail to realize is good stress is still stress. It still affects the body the same way that negative stress or bad stress. So you literally, your story resonates with me because the reason why I wear all these different hats was I was told by my male supervisors specifically, when you get an opportunity, hop on it. Every time. Doesn't matter if you don't have the experience. If there's an opportunity, you jump on it. So every job that I had, some of the jobs that I had, I didn't have any experience. But guess what? It was offered, sure. And I learned as on the job, you know, there were different educational opportunities, professional development opportunity. Like you said, volunteer opportunities, opportunities to be exposed. And I said, yes. So it benefited me well, but after time, when you're saying yes to everything and it is life-serving, it can become taxing and overwhelming if you're not taking the time for self. You know, you're saying yes to everybody, but there's no room for self-care. And so it's important for anybody, whether, you know, you work a 9 to 5, you're an entrepreneur, you're a stay-at-home mom, whatever you do, you are a whole individual. I think a lot of times, and with my business, that's what I really focus in on, recognizing as women that we are whole individuals before we are mothers, before we are sisters, before we are spouses, before we are friends, before we are employees, whoever. When I came into this world, I was Sydnie. And Sydnie needs love too. Sydnie needs care too. Sydnie needs rest too.
Yeah.
And so it's important that you take that time to pause and not only create boundaries for other people, but most people don't talk about personal self boundaries. You have to learn how to say no to yourself.
Yeah, there you go. That's it right there.
Yeah, so saying no to your self-sabotaging behaviors that lead you to, because I'm the queen of burnout. I call me doc. If there was a doctoral program when it comes to burnout, call me Dr. Burnout, because I've overdone it so many times in my life, right? But the beauty about it is now I'm able to help other people be able to, you know, really focus on the whole individual, meet the basic needs, and really the inner Sydnie, the inner child needs to be fed. Like I'm in a space now where I'm reparenting Sydnie. I love my parents, but the reality is they couldn't be there all the time. Like my dad's this giant, my mom is this giant. And so they're helping everyone else. They're in the helping profession. And so there were times where my brothers and I, our parents were around, but we had to be independent in so many ways, and we had to share them. We had to share them with our congregation. We had to share them with, their students. We had to share them with the community. And so there were certain, and then they lost a child, but they're still pouring out into the world, and they never stop. So for me, even with boundaries, I think part of the reason why I continue to go was because that's what I saw. So my conditioning was, this is how I need to operate. Even when I'm going through things, I still need to pour into people. I need to keep myself busy. I can't stop, But what that did was it made me emotionally unavailable. I was always taxed, I was always anxious, on edge, and after a while, I had to say to myself, this isn't working for me. Like, there has to be another way.
Yeah.
And that's when I started learning about self-care and getting back to, okay, what does little Sydnie need? What are the things that she missed growing up that her parents weren't able to meet for whatever reason? Let me tend to that. Let me nurture that. And then once I can do that, then I can focus in on the adult Sydnie and be able to meet her need. But the little Sydnie has so many things that remnants of stuff that she didn't realize were still there, issues that she didn't even know existed. But she's in this world and she's wondering why things are going the way that they're going. And it's like, I don't understand why things aren't working. Well, it's not working because I have all of these blind spots. And all of these unresolved issues that are hindering me from getting to this next level. And so in order to get to the next level that I want, that is designed for me, I have to heal.
Yeah.
And that's a long process.
Yeah. And I think, what's so funny, it came to my mind and it just like I think, and please take this with however you want to take it, but I think you should allow and give little Sydnie permission to not make her bed ever again if she doesn't want to.
Listen, she feels the way that she feels about it, and she does not, unless it's like guests are coming over or, I've done laundry,
I wonder what would happen if you were like, you don't have to make the bed. It's okay. Even if people are coming over. And I need to say that to myself because like same thing. Like I'm healing my inner self, like in so many ways. When it comes to food, that's a big priority for me right now because my body is projecting the way that I've been coping with my stress and trauma through food. Right? Like working with a dietitian and a somatic coach, like I learned that I'm like hiding and binging and like doing all this like stuff with food that I didn't even realize I was doing. Like I didn't realize I was stuffing my face and rushing to eat before Breezy was getting home so that he wouldn't see me eat a piece of candy because I was scared of him judging or whatever. But then I think back on it, I'm like, I remember, like eating whole boxes of candy so I could be the one to get to it before my brothers got to it, other thing, and then getting in trouble for that, and then hiding that, and then eating in shame, and also the shame of like occupying a larger body, but then also like looking back on pictures of myself. Like, I don't know if I've talked about it on the show before, but like when I won Miss Voluptuous America, like I was on Channel 7 and they requested a bunch of like childhood pictures of me. And I'm going through all these photos expecting to see this like really big little girl. And I'm like, this is just a little girl. This is just a normal size little girl. Like I was not a fat child. I was not like whatever you want to call that. I was not oversized. I was big. I was bigger than the rest of the kids in my grade, but I was a normal looking child. And I'm looking back at these photos and I'm like, that's not like how I was told that I looked, like my perception of what I looked like as a child based on what I was hearing was not that. And there is a disconnect, you know, whether it be body dysmorphia or whatever the case may be, like there is a disconnect what was being programmed into my mind about what I was and the body that I was occupying and the value that I was bringing to the world because of the way that I looked versus what I actually looked like and what was actually real. And so I'm like right now, a big priority for me is like whole health, like feeling fully healthy. Like I don't care about dieting for weight loss. I don't care about like losing a belly or whatever the case may be. I don't care about stretch marks. I don't care about none of that shit because I've had to work through that and own it. And it's been a part of my like empowerment for myself is to like just occupy the body and just be in it and then use it to my advantage. Like
and just make sure that it's healthy, you know.
That for me is the number one is like, because my body was rejecting the way I was moving. You know, it was like, it was flaring up. It was in pain. And I'm
our
like,
bodies always gives us signs, but we're taught, we ignore them.
Take medicine.
If you feel any pain, one of my friends told me, she's a nurse, she's like, any sort of pain in your body, that is your body, or anytime you just feel abnormal, that is your body sign to indicate to you something's wrong.
Beep, beep.
Pay attention.
Yeah.
But a lot of times we're like, oh, you know, I'll take a little ginger ale. And we never tend to it.
100%. And I think like, for me, everybody around me, and I think we talked a lot about this on the interview with Haley Zurich. We talked a lot about like our body issues and like what was like pushed on us. But like I didn't know how much I didn't know about nutrition. Like I know nothing about food, but in the past version of my life, people are just like, you eat for pleasure and you take medicine for healing. You eat for pleasure and you just mask it with Motrin, medicine, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And you know, my Lolo, my grandfather, like he had liver cancer because he was constantly taking Motrins all of the time to just like mask the pain. And it corroded his like in his body, his like organs, because he was taking too many pain medications that were not actually prescribed to him, all of this stuff. But I'm like, okay, I'm seeing a pattern of like being overworking yourself. This is like my mother, my grandparents, like her parents, I'm sure, but like overworking yourself for a check or for somebody else, then massive pain, the physical pain with pills and medication, and then just in that cycle forever. And you just take more and more pills. My Lola, my mom's mom, she had really aggressive arthritis, like in all of her joints. She started having dementia later on in life. And I remember like when we were, you know, helping her eat and all of that stuff. And when even just like before she, you know, started losing her mind, like I say that in the most kind way, like, you know, like disintegrating, her brain was like falling away. It was like, she was taking like 20 something pills. It was like,
and they're numbing. I mean, they're literally drugged up. They're zombies, you know.
She wasn't herself. Yeah. And like, you know, when my doctor was like, it's just a daily pill. It's just a daily pill. Well, I grew up on daily pills. Like I'm epileptic. So as a child, I had seizures. I had several seizure episodes. And so from the age of like 6 or 7, I had to take 3 daily pills through high school.
Wow. That's a lot. And they come with side effects. Not being anti-medication, but like, I think what people fail to realize is when we do take some of these medications, there are certain things like that. That's why they have these disclaimers, even on the, you know, on the commercials. Of course, they flower it up and things of that sort. But like, they do affect the liver. They do affect heart. They do affect all of these things that we need in order to survive. And so you have to, a lot of times, one thing that I love about this generation is we focus on the holistic approach. It's not that we are deviating from Western medicine.
No.
But the reality is, I mean, big pharma is right. I mean, it's expensive, but the other piece is like big pharma is the modern day drug dealers, you know, say, so there's we love everyone in the medical profession, but like there are pressures on them to push certain medications out. And so, and it's in the name of helping us, but a lot of times there are natural supplements, natural foods, things that grow in our communities that can do the same thing. Like for blood pressure, you know, my mom and my dad take water pills, right? And I never understood why you can't eat grapefruit but take your blood pressure medication. Well, the thing is, grapefruit is a natural way to help you lower your blood pressure level. So of course you can't have grapefruit because it not only interacts with the blood pressure medicine, the other piece is your blood pressure lowers. Well, then you don't need the medicine. So then Big Pharma can't make their money. You get what I'm saying? So like there are all these different things that we're taught in, like the builders, which were my grandparents. My parents are baby boomers. They were very much, you know, like you said, they, you know, work themselves to the bone, you know, day and night. You overextend yourself, sometimes neglecting your health. But if you do engage in, you know, taking care of your health, you abide by everything that your doctor tells you. You abide by everything that your teacher tells you. You abide by everything that your priest, pastor, whoever you look to, and you don't ask questions. You just, it's like, no, because why? And so now we ask questions like, why? Well, and the other piece is like, what works for this person may not work for the other person. And so we're like, yes, I'll take this medication, but you know what? I'm not going to take that one. I'm actually going to try to take a more natural approach. We'll see how that works. And then, you know, if it works, then I'll continue on this, you know, on this journey. And I'm grateful for that. I have a primary care physician that supports me in that. But, you know, there are a lot of folk out here who are like, no, you have to do this. You have to take this medication. You have to get this vaccination. You have to. And at the end of the day, it's really about the individual and what they feel most comfortable with and how it makes them feel. Mm-hmm. And so I love that you're taking the approach that you're taking and just saying, hey, I'm doing this for my health. I'm going to do what makes me most comfortable. And I'm not doing it to look a certain way. I'm doing this so I can feel a certain way. And if I get the look that I'm looking for, great. But if not, I'm comfortable with who I am. I am fine. I'm fine, curvy, sexy, exotic.
Exactly. And you know what? Like, I think that it's funny because I've been saying that I want to take the holistic approach for a really long time. Like, I've been dealing with the gout flares for over 3 years now. And I was not doing the internal emotional work that had to come with that. Like, I wasn't doing the reparenting. I was just eating fries and then not drinking pop and wondering why I'm still having the same, you know, why am I still feeling this way? Oh, wait a second. We need to have a deeper conversation about this. Oh, wait a second. We need to evaluate why I am triggered by a food diary. We need to evaluate why, you know, why am I hiding? Why am I sneaking snacks? Why am I not?
You have to reframe your mindset, because if you don't reframe your mindset and you're not aware of your triggers, you're going to continue the behavior. Like, that's the beauty about therapy and coaching and consulting. Everything has to do with reframing those cognitive distortions that you have, the limited belief systems that you have, because those are what drive you to do the things that you do, to respond the way that you respond. And so once you get that down pat, all of that is in tandem. You have to get your mind right before you can even change your behavior. And I think most times people don't realize that.
This is beautiful. We are already at an hour. It went by so quick. So quick.
Okay.
Yes. You're frozen at the moment, but I'm hoping that we'll catch up.
No.
But you look good. You're a servant face, so it's fun.
Thank you. Am I still frozen?
You are still frozen, but that's okay.
No. Because you're frozen on my end.
Really? I'm moving on my end. I'm wondering, we'll just keep going. We'll see how it goes at the very end. So 2 last pieces. One, what is one last piece of advice based on the conversation that we had that you have?
I'm going to give the advice that I've given to myself. Heal, sis. Heal, bruh. Like, we have so many goals. We have so much potential. And we limit ourselves because we don't acknowledge that we got some shit we got to deal with. Shit that we've been avoiding. And you have to, if you want the fullness of what's designed for you, the fullness of what you've always dreamed of for yourself, you have to do the hard stuff. And one of the hardest things to do is to put that mirror on self and see you for beauty, flaws, and all. And when you're able to look at yourself and have an understanding of self, embrace who you are. You know, and that's part of the healing process for me, embracing the beautiful sides of me, the not so, what I would consider the not so beautiful sides of me, or just the sides of me that are just me.
Yeah.
And being in a space where I'm accepting me. So when I get out into the world, I'm not walking around with this imposter syndrome on a day-to-day basis, or you know, you attract what you are. And so if I am in a space where I'm learning to accept myself, where I am loving on myself, where I'm healing and taking care of myself, guess what I'm going to attract? I'm going to attract people who are on a journey of wholeness. I'm going to attract people who are choosing to evolve and be healed. But as long as I remain broken, guess who I'm going to attract? And so that's what I would say to anyone. Take the time to heal your mind first, heal your heart, heal your spirit, because there are so many people with tormented souls. I think sometimes we think about the mind and like, oh, I'm going to therapy and that's great, but you have to hit your spirit, your soul, because when your soul is broken, there is no therapy in the world that can help you. And so that's why I say that learn to believe in something. Yeah. If it's not, you know, a religious or spiritual, you know, entity, be able to believe in self. Yes. I mean, that's for anybody. Believe in yourself. And if you're in that space where you believe and trust in yourself, and then you also lean and tap into other entities that give you strength, you're able to do anything that you set your mind to. But you have to heal first, because if you don't heal, you're never going to tap into the fullest potential that you can reach. And for me, when I die, I want to have exhausted and done everything that I wanted to do and that I was supposed to do.
100%.
I don't want to walk away with any regrets. I want to have healthy relationships with individuals that I love. I want fruitful reciprocal, intentional relationships. But in order to do that, I have to be able to reciprocate.
Yeah.
I have to be intentional. Like, if I want people who are caring, I have to care. Like, if I'm looking for someone who's being patient, I have to learn how to be patient. Like, it can't be a one-sided thing. No. It needs to be reciprocal. So be the person that you seek. And the only way that you can be that person that you seek or receive the love, the attention, the care that you're looking from other people is if you are able to embody that yourself, with self first, and then do that with others. So heal. That's all I got.
It's so good. I love that. That's so beautiful and perfect, and a wonderful way to end this wonderful conversation. Where can people find you?
So you can find me on social media, on IG. My handle is at Sydnie the Great. You can find me on Facebook and LinkedIn, Sydnie Bland, that's SYDNIE BLAND. You can also go on my website, www.oman.org, that's wwoman.org, and you'll be able to see all of the great things that I'm doing with my business. And then you can catch me, honestly, you go on YouTube, you'll find me singing at something, a church, some special event. I'm all over. So a lot of times people tag me on social media because I do studio work too. So you'll be able to see a lot of that on my page.
Yay! And then what's the next upcoming project that you got?
So right now I am knee deep with this project with a local school district. So I have about 25 promo videos that I have to shoot between today and May 29th. And then I'll be editing and producing and then pushing that out to the schools that we film. So I'll be doing that. I'm coming into, I think, my 3rd year of establishment as a business, or is it 2nd? Either way, June is like my 2nd or 3rd year. So I'm looking to do more things in the community because I've done a lot of work with organizations. Now I want to do more work with individuals and more in really groups in the Detroit area. So I'll just be on the lookout on my website to some great things that will be coming up in the summer and the fall. I'm definitely moving into a tech space as well. So I'm really excited about this move because I want to make sure that as we are providing coaching, consulting, training, and I'm adding counseling services to our business services, that we're meeting the needs of the whole woman. And that also includes integrating technology. And so I'm really excited about the great things that are happening. And girl, we're going to have to partner on some stuff in the future. So I'm really looking forward to that. And so
love
just continuing to do that work and really revamp my business and continue to grow.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I'm really so
grateful for having me.
All of your wisdom, all of your stories, your energy, all of the juicy ooey gooey goodness. We're gonna have to do a round 2 because I have so many follow-ups.
We got to.
For all of the things, and we need to do that coffee that we've been talking about because I have so many more questions that we could do off air. But
yes,
I am so grateful for you. Thank you.
I'm grateful for you. Thank you so much for this platform. I need so many other individuals need this, and I'm just grateful that you walked in your light and your calling, and it's a beautiful thing.
Thank you so much. I love you.
Love you much.
Well, thank you all so much for being here again. We do this every week. We do it every week. We talk to amazing humans about their amazing stories, and we give tips and tricks and advice to how to find your glow and how to get there and what you need to do. And I think if there's one thing that I can string through all of these conversations is just like, do what your intuition is asking you to do. Just do the thing. Mm-hmm. And you will learn something. Anyways, this is Amanda Sweet. This is the Let's Glow Show. I'm the Creative Fairy Godmother, and we'll see you next Wednesday with another creative entrepreneur. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye, y'all.